The disastrous meeting between Trump and Zelensky continues its fallout. I'm going to do a little bit of commentary. Of course, this goes without saying that I am an ignorant comic book artist commenting on a war and on a botched negotiation.
The president has made it clear always that both sides need to talk equally to bring both sides to the table to negotiate a deal. And, you know, in a good deal, any good deal, whether it's in business or in politics, both sides usually walk away a little bit unhappy. Unfortunately for Zelensky, I think he refuses to recognize the practical reality of this war. It's been going on for years. His countrymen are dying. And the people who have been funding this effort, the American people, are sick and tired of footing this bill. So it's a much different situation for him than it was 3 years ago. And as President Trump said today, he doesn't have any cards. The cards are not in his favor. They're in President Trump's favor. There's a new leader in the White House who has much different priorities than the last administration. He wants peace. He wants the war to end. And it doesn't seem like Zelensky wants that quite yet.
So I didn't serve. I don't want to serve. I don't want to give money to Ukraine. I get that bodies are just being ground up between both Russian bodies and Ukrainian bodies. That's terrible. I actually think I'm way more of a warmonger than most people in that I think nuclear bombs and bullets are to destroy evil. And I don't think our warmongers want to destroy evil. I think they want to prolong a war and make money off it. That's my beef with it, is they don't love war enough. How's that for irony? So if you're not going to use war morally for what it ought to be, which usually is a defense of our country, we shouldn't be running a proxy war over in Ukraine. That's my opinion on it. Again, I'm a comic book artist, okay? Scott Jennings here. What they're doing is the Democrats, they lied about Trump. Let me find this real quick. Now, this is the Babylon Bee. It's a parody site, and it's making fun of this claim, but this is Josh Shapiro, right? I believe this is in Pennsylvania on the campaign trail. And there's Zelensky, and he's signing bombs. They have video of this where he's signing bombs and weapons that we are selling to Ukraine, to Zelensky, not just selling to him, but giving it to him. Trump will start World War III, says party autographing bombs to be launched at Russia. But it's also funny because it's true. We are messing with World War III because we're running a proxy war.
It's this thing where Ukraine comes to the White House and acts like it can tell us what we should do. That's not what the relationship is. This thing where somehow we're on the hook, including for countries that are not in NATO, that was never the deal. Ukraine is not part of NATO. We were never obligated to protect Ukraine. Maybe that was something that Europe wants to do. Great, Europe should go protect Ukraine. We have no NATO agreement with Ukraine. And this thing where then Zelensky then goes and quotes all these other European leaders, they're with me, not with the United States. Great. Go work together. We have 100,000 Americans being killed by the Chinese and Mexican fentanyl and methamphetamine mafias every year.
Putin knows where the bombs are coming from. We're providing the bombs. Putin knows where the money's coming from, half from Europe and half from us. But anyways, the media told you that Trump was going to start World War III.
This morning, a major Republican rebuke. Top GOP Senator Bob Corker telling the New York Times President Trump could put the nation on the path to World War III.
And Trump's the only leader right now trying to stop World War III. All of the Democrats want to prolong and dick with and mess with World War III. These are all never Trumpers. Never Trumpers said Trump's so unhinged, he's going to get us dragged into World War III. And now they're angry that he's demanding a ceasefire from Zelensky. That is literally ending World War III. I do most of my commentary on this show is about media. Everyone, you're being manipulated and brainwashed. So I hope this is a refreshing take on this stuff. I like this take by Scott Jennings, who says something very clear. He even gets a Democrat to agree with them on this. What?
I don't know if he needs an apology. He needs Zelensky to recognize the position that he's in.
Which to you is what?
We're their patron. We're their best hope for the killing to stop and for them to emerge from this sovereign and prosperous. And we're also their best hope as a business partner. I mean, all Zelensky had to do today was put on a tie, show up, smile, say thank you, sign the papers, and have lunch. That's it. And he couldn't do that. And this followed 10 days of being difficult in private, and now one day of being stupid in public.
Now, this is true They make it sound like, oh, Zelensky just flew in and this just started. No, Zelensky sent all of his Ukraine advisors in. They've been having talks with Trump, including on the phone. We're going to get to this longer Marco Rubio interview. These are the facts that you need to remember because the media, once again, is lying to you. The facts are Trump went into that meeting ready to have lunch with Zelensky and sign this paper where we got mineral rights as a trade for giving weapons. It's kind of a payback to us for helping Ukraine. Trump was excited about signing that. It was going to mean peace because we were going to put all of our mining operations in Ukraine. You could put it right up to that 100-mile, that demilitarized zone right on the border, and Putin would not be able to fire on Ukraine because we had all of our mining operations there. See, you seed it with American civilians. It's not a declaration of war. Putin would be pressured to stop. And Zelensky was so proud and pig-headed and such a complete ass and really bad at negotiations. That's the other thing, man. You study Churchill. Churchill had FDR in his hands. Like Churchill studied him and said, this is how you get America into the war. You have to make very brief bullet points on your requests of him. He had a whole dossier on his personality. Zelensky didn't do that. He's a stupid actor in the clowning and goofing and he doesn't have the common sense to wear a suit. And so he never did a profile on knowing how to get Trump what he wants. You always show him thankfulness. And J.D. Vance too. He should have a complete psychological profile on the president to know how you work a room. He clearly didn't. Total amateur hour on negotiations. All he had to do is say, thank you, sign the document, and eat lunch. We go over there and start mining minerals, sign a ceasefire, and Zelensky did not want a ceasefire. An estimated 2,000 more Russians and Ukrainians died last night because of warmongers, neocons, and Zelensky. And the media. Remember, this is CNN media. They're going to be dragging on Trump and banging on Trump through all these videos. And the media are also responsible and partially cheering on the continued death in this war.
This did not have to go down this way.
Okay.
And however you feel about why it started, why it's going on, who's right and who's wrong, we can help them in this and come out okay on the other side, and he's making it hard.
Now, first of all,
I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I actually agree with Scott. And everything that he said was basically right.
Wow.
I know. I'm going to get killed on social media for admitting.
That's a Democrat agreeing with Scott. I also love that he says, I'm going to get killed on social media for doing this. Democrats get killed. That's Josh Rogan.
Admitting that, but so be it. And the fact is that it doesn't matter whether Vice President Vance planned it or just took the opportunity to bait Zelensky. Zelensky took the bait, okay?
Yeah.
And he shouldn't have. He made a mistake.
He made a mistake because he's an amateur in negotiations. Who's really trying to start and continue and mess around with World War III? Is it Trump, like the media said, or were the media lying?
I think that he owes President Trump an apology for what happened inside the Oval Office today. Do you feel otherwise?
I do, because you guys don't see. You guys only saw the end. You saw what happened today. You don't see all the things that led up to this. So let me explain. The president's been very clear. He campaigned on this. He thinks this war should have never started. He believes, and I agree, that had he been president, it never would have happened. Now here we are. He's trying to bring an end to this conflict. We've explained very clearly what our plan is here, which is we want to get the Russians to a negotiating table. We want to explore whether peace is possible. They understand this. They also understand that this agreement that was supposed to be signed today was supposed to be an agreement that binds America economically to Ukraine, which to me, as I've explained, and I think the president alluded to today, is a security guarantee in its own way, because we're involved. It's now us. It's our interests. That was all explained. That was all understood. And nonetheless, for the last 10 days, in every engagement we've had with the Ukrainians, there's been complications in getting that point across, including the public statements that President Zelensky has made. But they insisted on coming to D.C. This agreement could have been signed 5 days ago, but they insisted on coming to Washington. And there was and should have been a very clear understanding. Don't come here and create such scenario where you're going to start lecturing us about how diplomacy isn't going to work. President Zelensky took it in that direction, and it ended in a predictable outcome as a result. It's unfortunate. That wasn't supposed to be this way, but that's the path he chose. And I think, frankly, sends his country backwards in regards to achieving peace, which is what President Trump wants at the end of the day, is for this war to end. He's been as consistent as anyone can be about what his objective is here.
But what specifically do you want to see President Zelensky apologize for?
What do you mean to apologize? What do you want him to apologize for? See, she's defending Zelensky. I guess that's the news' job, to keep the administration in check. I guess she's supposed to ask this kind of a question, pretending like there's nothing Zelensky has to apologize for to J.D. Vance or to Trump. We only got that 5 to 10 minute clip of the initial fight, right? The actual interview, the actual meeting was 55 minutes long. It was 1 hour. And I watched the beginning of it. And at the beginning of it, it was a victory lap. It was Trump and Zelensky saying, we're going to sign this deal right now, and then we're going to have some lunch. By the end of the meeting, the deal was done. It was over. Zelensky still demanded to do some kind of a deal with Trump without a ceasefire, and Trump threw him out of the White House, out of the Oval Office. It started with the best of intentions. By the end of the whole thing, deal was over. That's on Zelensky. And yes, he should apologize, because he needs billions of dollars. Like Trump said, you don't have the cards, you're not going to win this war. He's not going to win. He's going to lose more men. And Russia's going to lose more men. Another important thing that he brought up, that Marco Rubio brought up, is that it was under Biden. It was under Biden that this whole war started, and that it would not have started under Trump. That is, if CNN was advocating for Trump instead of for Biden to win in 2020, the war wouldn't have happened. You'd have 400,000 more Ukrainians alive, young men being dragged out into a meat grinder. They'd be alive if not for the efforts of people like this CNN newscaster. They're not peaceniks. They're not nice. They're not loving. They're not good for the world. They're not repairing our reputation in the world. And Trump's not a warmonger starting World War III. They're all lies. They lied the whole time about Biden. Biden's weakness invited this war. And they did it. These weak people caused 400,000 and Ukrainian young men combined, demolishing whole cities. Look at Israel. Democrats did that. Never put an X next to a Democrat on a ballot.
Well, apologize for turning this thing into the fiasco for him that it became. There was no need for him to go in there and become antagonistic. Look, this thing went off the rails. You were there, I believe. It went off the rails when he said, let me ask you a question to the vice president. What kind of diplomacy are you talking about? Well, this is a serious thing. I mean, thousands of people have been killed, thousands. And he talks about all these horrible things that have happened to
hundreds of thousands of people have been killed, Rubio. The thing that the news is not reporting on is that I could show you the video, I'm not going to, but under Zelensky's breath, he called J.D. Vance a bitch, the B word. In his own language, it's a word that they use to call him out under his breath. He completely disrespected J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance, who has served, he's a Marine, he has served in the military, and he knows what war is like.
Prisoners of war and children, all true, all bad. This is what we're dealing with here. It needs to come to an end. We are trying to bring it to an end. The way you bring it to an end is you get Russia to the table to talk. And he understands that attacking Putin, no matter how anyone may feel about him personally, forcing the president into a position where you're trying to goad him into attacking Putin, calling him.
She's looking down at her next question while he's answering.
Names, maximalist demands about Russia having to pay for the reconstruction, all the sorts of things that you talk about in a negotiation. Well, when you start talking about that aggressively, and the president's a deal maker, he's made deals his entire life, you're not going to get people to the table. And so you start to perceive that maybe Zelensky doesn't want a peace deal. He says he does, but maybe he doesn't. And that active, open undermining of efforts to bring about peace is deeply frustrating for everyone who's been involved in communications with them leading up to today. And I think we should apologize for wasting our time for a meeting that was going to end the way it did.
You yourself have said previously that Putin cannot be trusted in negotiations. That was the point that President Zelensky was ultimately making during that conversation, is that there cannot be an agreement without security guarantees, because he was talking about all the ceasefire agreements before, or agreements that Putin has just blown past. I mean, do you still feel that way, that Putin cannot be trusted in these negotiations?
Well, I was there yesterday when the president said in front of the media that our approach is going to be trust but verify. President Trump's made deals his entire life. He's not going to get suckered into some deal that's not a real deal. We all understand this. We understand it on our end for certain.
In other words, the ceasefire may have been done under Obama, who are suckers, or Biden, who are suckers, or Europe, who are suckers, but it hasn't been done with Trump. Putin responds. He's a wolf. He responds to power, and Trump will exert power. Obama never exerted or flexed power. Everyone knew he was to walk over him. He was a beta male. Biden, I mean, he wasn't even conscious, so he was never even on the table. This is a vacuum that caused the whole thing. Notice her. She's going back to Marco Rubio going, are you still saying, trying to get him to call a name, are you still saying that Putin can't be trusted? Well, I think now America's conclusion is that Zelensky can't be trusted either. I didn't have a big opinion on the guy. I saw him in the meeting and I go, I don't trust him. I would never work with him. Now I don't want us to pay one dime to him, period. No men, no blood. This is Europe's problem. You guys go take care of it. It's a complete mess. And then Trump should, behind the scenes, go and work with Zelensky and say, come back to the table, you moron, because I still want peace. And you sign this deal and you agree to immediate ceasefire should be today. That's on Zelensky. It's not Trump's fault. Trump didn't blow this thing. Zelensky did. Media, Democrats, never Trumpers are trying to blame Trump and J.D. Vance.
So the goal here is to get to a place we have to explore whether peace is possible. I've said this repeatedly. I don't know. I think it is, based on what they've said so far, but we have to explore that. How else is this war going to end? I ask people, what is the European plan to end this war? I can tell you what one foreign minister told me, and I'm not going to say who it was, but I can tell you what one of them told me, and that is that the war goes on for another year, and at that point, Russia will feel so weakened that they'll beg for a peace. That's another year of killing, another year of dying, another year of destruction, and by the way, not a very realistic plan in my point of view. So
yeah, the war goes on another year, and then Putin's going to demand peace. No way. Look at that guy. Look at Putin. You know, he's not going to back down. By the way, Ukraine isn't going to back down either. Think of how belligerent we would be if someone took one of our states. If Mexico took one of our states, that's what happened. Let's say Mexico took Arizona and said, these are the new boundaries, and we did not have the military might to beat them. Americans, we'd probably die. You know, we'd grind everyone through that. We're not going to back down. So Zelensky's not going to back down. Putin isn't going to back down either. It looks too good for him. He got back a piece of Ukraine. He believes all of Ukraine should be Russia, by the way. And I'm not going to judge that as evil or not. It's not really my place, and I really don't care about the little landmass wars that everyone plays over there. We do know Putin is the aggressor, okay? He went into a tiny, tiny nation. It wasn't his. At the time, and he's trying to make it his. So that's all complicated. And America just goes, look, I don't think these borders are worth grinding. Certainly not worth spending our money, certainly aren't worth sending missiles to Ukraine to shoot at Russia so that we can drag them into World War III. I just wanted to show you that this whole interview goes on. Marco Rubio is impressive as a statesman. As navigating all this, I don't think he's strong enough and like ballsy enough to be president. I think J.D. Vance is. But Marco Rubio is an incredible craftsman as a statesman. He goes on through this whole interview. You know, this show's been on, I've been doing this now for 19 minutes, a little too long, but his defense of Trump and his going through the actual workings of what he's been doing behind the scenes as a statesman is impressive. He's really good at navigating, and then he defended Trump, went down point by point, and defended the boss. He makes CNN, look immoral. They're warmongers. They're the ones that want to keep this war going. Trump wants to end it. Marco Rubio is underlying it over and over again. We want peace, and they're not going to take no for an answer from Zelensky, because Zelensky does not have the cards or the power to push. No one has the power or the will to push that borderline back to Russia and make Putin give up those two land masses. Putin's, no one's willing to risk World War III. And if you're not, then don't go in the biker bar and start shooting off your mouth if you're not willing to get in a fight. and punch out the lunatic that's going to come get you. That's what we're doing. You want to take them out? Then let's fire a nuke and let's risk World War III, because that's what it's going to take. Anybody want to volunteer for that? Not going to happen. I'm Doug, in exile.